And if you go to the...
This is what I mean. Do.
There you go.
Okay.
I was going to suggest, do you want to mute the video?
Fine. That's just because we haven't renamed it.
Okay, and then in that case...
What are you doing?
Right, your options were to mute the video.
They can hear us, Tom. Please don't.
Right, there you go. Okay,
I hate
now you
this
just go
show.
back to the stream. Wait, you had the tab open.
I shut it because of the noise, obviously.
Okay.
I don't know how they did all the other stuff, so I don't even know if people are here. Or,
Right.
oh my god.
That's because, right, so...
I'm not good at streams. This is
No,
not my
no, I
thing.
know you're not.
You have to go on there, my channel.
Yeah, right.
I don't like streams. I'm not
This.
good.
That was what I was asking you to do. Because now we have the chat, we have everything set up. There we go.
I don't like it. This is
I
weird.
don't like it.
Because now I can't tell if the swords and stuff are like in shot.
I mean, the spear is. You can see everything that is in shot.
Yeah, we'll see it. We'll see it afterwards and tell that it's not.
Just move very slowly with your 30-second stream delay. We'll be fine. So now it's just a matter of waiting to see if once people get in.
I do like sitting in our own presence. Just
Do you want to rename it?
I don't just letting them know because I don't know how to rename it. So
That was what I was quickly going to see if we can do. Not the screen. Well, we've got 2 people watching.
who are
Hello.
watching us be absolute morons because we don't know how to run a stream.
It's good enough.
Yeah, it'll do. It'll do what it's meant to do. But we're really low.
Let's see, edit. There we go.
Hey guys. It's just me and Tom today, so we don't usually control all of the stream settings. That's Poppy's thing, so we're a little bit behind as far as sorting this stuff goes.
Oh, that's saved. Hurrah. Internal server errors.
And then internal server errors, and you know, we like to be prepared on this in this group, totally.
There we go. Problem solved. And now everything is as it should be, and a very small number of people have seen it so far, and then anyone watching the VOD can see the rest.
Yeah, pretty much. So this is going to be a stream on weapons. I'm sorry that we started a little bit late, but like I just said, we are not good at the streaming thing. Usually I'm just here to be loud and make noise. So this is going to be fun. I figured we'd start with shields because that's a nice easy start into doing weapons and things. It's okay to like know about all this stuff if you're non-combatant, because if you're non-combatant you still have to deal with the weapons even if they're not going to hit you or anything. You still got to know what's okay, what's not okay, because then you can let us know if you see anything that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Which is like the first thing you should always do if someone's doing something wrong, is just go and let a ref know. Don't get confrontational, just, you know, it's a game, let's all just have some fun with it.
And yeah,
So,
introducing the
shields.
stream. Well, I was going to suggest introducing the stream while we wait for people to show up.
No, they're too late.
They're too late. Wait, because they were not here within the first like minute.
But shields. I have a shield now. We can do a little bit. They'll catch up. It'll be okay.
I was just going to say it's worth noting any questions that get asked. We will get around to. We've got the chat open.
We will see them. Yeah, it's not a problem. But yeah, so this is a butt clear shield. It's obviously it is what it is. It's made out of foam and latex, and obviously the point of it is to make sure that things don't hit you.
It, for the most part, matches weapon construction. It doesn't have a core, unlike a weapon, most weapons. Obviously, this one is punch grip.
Call that because you can
we've
do
got
that.
this in. Yeah, we've definitely shown at some point the punch grip on the stream. I say these tend to not have cores in, but they tend to be fairly rigid. This one has a little bit of flex because it's a fairly small one, so
And it's old.
Can, yeah. These tend to be fairly small. Some systems let you use it without extra skills. In this, you will require the shield skill for any and all use of shields.
No matter the size, do you want to pass me the bigger one? Yeah. Because that one's fun and all, but I mean, who doesn't want a dragon wing in their life to protect them from everything? And my beautiful this is my beautiful baby. She is not a punch grip. She is a straps. So you'll strap it to your arm and then it will protect you. I'm just going to put it right in front of my face. There you go. In it, all her glory. She's made pretty much the same way. She's a little stiffer than the buckler. But
that's mostly due, rather than being through different material construction, it's mostly due to the fact that this is, maybe a centimetre thick, the buckler, as opposed to the winged shield, which is probably 2-3 inches thick in places.
And we're going to explain how to use a couple of the weapons and shields and stuff, but don't worry, because when you get to the event we are going to do a very basic 101, just make sure everyone's comfortable with what they're doing.
Everyone's safe.
Yeah. It's not us trying to be like, oh, you're doing it wrong. It's us trying to make sure that nobody gets stabbed in the eye, because it hurts. Really hurts. So the basics of a shield is, well, you hold it in front of you and you stop people from hitting you. But it's important that you don't... it's a natural reflex that you would want to... I'm holding it up and then someone's coming towards me, so I'm going to push forward. Don't do that. Shield bashing or barging or grabbing onto someone's shield, it's not on. We're not doing that. There are systems that allow some of those rules, but ours we're not. There will be no barging with shields, no clashing of shields. So if someone stood in front of you with a shield, don't think you can just start smacking them with yours. No, they're not a weapon. They're not a weapon. They're behind. It is for to stand in between you and the sword. Don't try and... the parrying away swords,
it varies. So for the most part, most shields tend to be you hold your arm out, they're in a fixed position, you'll get to you'll generally try and position it in such a way as it will catch blades. There are a few more things that you can do to do it, but for the most part the easiest way to use them is to stand there and use them. Obviously the buckler itself is a much smaller shield.
That didn't help though.
The smaller shields tend to require more movement. This will require you to actually move it into the way of blows, use it more proactively. Most shields by default aren't moved.
Yeah.
To answer the question that's popped up, as Gemma briefly mentioned, the plan is that we can go over some very brief LARP 101 before time in, sort of how the combat works, some safety things. It will be part of your safety brief. There'll hopefully be enough time for us to let a couple of you potentially power up, do a quick spar or two before the system starts. For those of you who are inexperienced, you might be able to swindle one of the more experienced LARPers, or if a ref has some free time or an NPC has some free time, to say, hey, with everything that's going on, could you give me a few pointers on using my weapon? But effectively do some in-game training with it.
We are having competency tests for bows and for polearms. Now, what a competency test, I can't say that word, bro. Yeah, that word. It's not, again, this isn't us judging you on how good you are at using it. We're just judging you on whether you understood the rules we explained. So we would just ask you to show us what to do if. So just an example, if you're holding a bow and somebody charges at you, the correct response is to turn your back to them. not to try to parry them with your bow or anything like that, which we'll explain more later. But that's what we'd be looking for.
There are a couple of responses I say. Before we do the competencies, we can go over. So, for example, if you are doing a bow competency for LARP,
Yes.
and you've not used a bow in LARP before, I will go over these things with you, and I'll make sure you've absorbed them, and then we'll make sure that you're safe using it. We'll make sure you know what you're doing, and that if some axe-wielding maniac comes running at you, you know exactly what to do to make sure that no injuries occur.
So those things are for your safety. So if for any reason someone doesn't believe that you are safe with it, we don't want people to get upset. It is purely just for everyone else's safety and your own.
Yeah.
That won't happen. Come on, I trust you guys. It's all cool. But
if you're doing something really, really stupid, you know, you've forgotten something and you're doing something silly, someone should come over to the ref, point it out to us. We'll keep an eye on it, and then we'll, you know, approach you and we'll just try. We're not going to be telling you you've done this wrong, you're in trouble. It will be right. Here's what you're doing wrong. If you could correct it like this, it'll be much nicer. If you continue doing it, we will get harder on you about it. But if it's a simple mistake, we know we'll try and correct it, talk you through it, make sure everyone's safe and happy.
So now back to shields, because we were just explaining that we're not trying to belittle anyone. We're just trying to help. So we've done the straps and what it's kind of made of, and no striking. Saying again, no hitting anyone with your shield. If they're unarmed, no just like tapping them with it, please. It's not a weapon. It doesn't do damage. And also, we're just saying this, that there is no ambiing shields. You are not ambidextrous and get 2 shields. Yes, I know it can physically be done, but we're not doing it because it's silly.
It's less that it's because it's silly.
Yeah.
Due to how it works, the methods of dealing with it, due to how LARP works, in a LARP setting, it's difficult to deal with, and while you can do it, the normal methods you'd use to do it don't really work in LARP, because you can't just kick someone's shield in. Please don't kick someone's shield in. That would be dangerous and stupid, and I will have very, very long
One thing to be aware of when you get a bigger shield, so if you've got a buckler shield, usually I'd say, just for example, more of a rogue thing. Warriors can have them, but with a rogue thing, you're like all very nimble and quick. If you've got a bigger shield, so one that maybe covers you even more than my kite shield does, you might find that people start to go for the legs and head a lot more. If you're not confident or comfortable with anybody aiming for your head, please try not to do full body shields as best you can, because they're the only I mean, there are other ways of getting around it, and we do not encourage head hitting at all, but we understand that if heads are the only target, what else are you going to go for? So I'd encourage that if you're seriously not comfortable with it, don't get a larger shield, because the bigger the shield, the more likely people might go for head hits. So I don't encourage anyone to if they go against a large shield, but if that's the only target, it is going to happen. That's all I got to say on that. Really?
There is a size limit on the shield you can take. Did you write it down, or did you...
It's that. It's 40 inches height by 32 inches width. Which is slightly bigger than mine?
Slightly, yes.
Only slightly, not
well,
much.
it's a decent amount larger, because yours is a fairly small shield. Yeah. It's... We're not going to get the whole shield in camera.
I know!
I'm just letting you know. Yep, so sorry, 40 inches high by 32 inches wide. In theory, you could have a 40-inch wide shield by 32 height. We're not going to be pedantic and say, well, you hold it this way up, therefore this is the width that we're measuring it on.
Yeah.
It basically, just as long as it's not larger than those dimensions. I think that's everything on shields then.
Also, if you have it strapped to your back for any reason, even if that's you're just carrying it, which is fine, you can do that. If it's on your back, it does not protect you from hitting on the back or backstabbing. If you're not holding it in your arm, it is not protecting you. People are getting through it, it's doing bludgeoning damage to your back, whatever you want to think. if someone attacks your back and you've got it on your back, it still works. So it doesn't work. It still works. It doesn't work.
The blows still work.
Yeah, the blows still work. The shield does not protect your back. If you just wear it on your back, if you like move around so you're protecting your back, yeah, but
if you're wielding the shield, it works. If it's not being, if it's not either strapped to your arm or being held in your hands, it's not a functioning shield.
Yeah.
This also applies to weapons, because while you can parry a blow while it's in your hand, if you have 6 swords strapped to your back, they don't parry blows to your back because they're not in your hands.
yeah, that's not how parrying works.
Next.
You happy? Alright, so before we go into like all of the different weapons and the types we're going to be dealing with, we're going to quickly have a chat about what you're going to find in the marketplace and some of the words that are going to be thrown at you when you go looking for new weapons, because we've all been at that stage where we've never held a weapon before and we're like, I don't know. So first I just wanted to show the difference. There's weapons that I have which are foam latex. The general way a weapon is made is they have a fiberglass or carbon fiber core. They're then layered in foam, and then they're isoflexed or other latex to make them softer, to make them, water resistant, and to make them safe.
There are other cores available, but they tend to be less common. Generally speaking, most normal weapons use fiberglass. Carbon fiber tends to be used in the rapiers that several of the traders make. It tends to be, I think, a little bit lighter and a little bit faster as far as cores go. There are people who do things like PVC cores. You have to watch them for additional things like splintering and other maintenance issues.
I mean, cores won't be your biggest concern in particular. Cores aren't usually the biggest problem. The other type of weapon is injection molded. Now, injection molded is different because it's basically a factory made weapon. A lot of the weapon manufacturers do it each one by hand, whereas injection molded is more, for any prop makers out there, they've built the mold for it and then they've done a very similar thing, so they've still got the core and the foam and the latex, but it's all molded into a single container or multiple containers, and it's done that way, so it can be done a lot faster and more repeatable. These weapons are often a lot cheaper for that reason, but they come with a lot of problems. I mean, all weapons have their...
Depending on the quality of the injection molding process.
Yeah, so with injection molding we found that they're trying, that it's getting better, but they're not very consistent, at least at the moment.
It varies.
Yes.
So for example, if you buy for example, a Medlock weapon will tend to have a higher consistent, it's not going to have as many defects and imperfections than a random injection mold that you buy off eBay from China. A lot of the issues that are with injection molds can be counteracted by just buying better ones, at which point though you are tending to push the price up back towards the sort of handmade end of the spectrum.
Okay. So the way you can usually tell that something is injection molded is it's very often I found that they have like sharp-ish edges, not like razor sharp, but they're often a lot more jagged when they try and do curves because of the way that it's been molded. You'll usually see a line where the forming has taken place, so where it's been glued together pretty much, and it's usually I found them to be really matte in colour. I don't know whether that's the kind of foam or latex they use.
It does vary. There are quite a lot of the injection moulding comes out shiny. You end up with the very strange sort of speckled foam effects.
That's what I was saying.
Well, those are the shiny sparkly. They look like someone's sprayed glitter all over them.
The colour is matte though. It's really dense, really flat colour.
It can vary. It depends on the foam
Even
used.
when they colour them, it usually is a very flat colour. It's not usually like there's no shading or anything. It's usually a very flat, very boring color. But I'm saying that's not obviously, that is just the ones that I have seen and the ones that are common. You might find that diamond in the rough one, of course, it's like anything, but I personally, not everyone here, but personally don't recommend you go for an injection mold. It is cheaper, yes, and I know it is all new to you, but I find them to just be a bit of a risk. But especially when most injection molded, if you haven't bought it at the store, you can't tell what it's going to come as.
Yeah, that is a frequent issue sometimes with injection molded weapons. Is sometimes they will fail weapon check for a year or two, because it can take quite a bit of time for an injection molded weapon to soften, because the process itself tends to create a slightly denser, slightly harder weapon, which needs to soften up over time effectively, which they do, and quite often you end up with systems where they'll check your weapon, they'll go, it's slightly outside the bounds of what would be allowed, but they won't fail it, because over the course of fighting with it over a single weekend, quite often it will bring it down to the proper softness. But it's a risk that you take, is you end up with a weapon which can be very solid compared to the rest of the weapons that we'll be checking, which could lead to failed weapon checks depending on the quality of the injection mold.
Yeah, we're not outright banning them. You can get one if you want to take the risk. You can get one, and it might turn out absolutely fine. And I really hope it does if you do get one. Again, I just don't recommend, because if you do come and we're not happy with how safe it is, I will have to say no. We will do our best to bring spare weapons just in case.
We most likely won't be able to provide them at all, because most of them will be in use by the monsters. If your weapon breaks, we might be able to help you, but there's a fair chance that we won't be able to provide anything if you don't have a weapon and you are a fighting character.
Yes, as I was going to continue saying, so we will do our best if we have to fail your weapon for a silly reason, because it's no good you coming to your first lap and not having anything to fight with. You can also ask other players, because I know that a lot of other players are very nice. Say, do you have a chat on our Facebook? Be like, hey guys, where did you get your weapon? Things like that. You know, talk to each other. If you're an experienced LARPer and there's somebody's brand new, be like, hey, I got a good weapon from here. Like, I'm going to be doing this entire stream, and it's only going to be for one creator, which is why I wanted to point out that there are other ones. It's just I buy mostly from one.
Yeah, if we want to go over regular weapons briefly now in construction, because we've talked a lot about injection molded, and we haven't covered the other two types. Well, there's lots of construction methods. But
I was just doing the one that's...
Right. So, the important thing here, so this is a regular latex covered weapon, which I believe this one will be fiberglass cord. Generally, you'll notice it's quite thick compared to an actual, if you were comparing to an actual knife, the blade's quite thick. The foam tends to be quite thick. I can squeeze. Generally, I'm not going to do it too hard. You can flex the tips slightly. You don't want to do it too much, because you can damage the weapon if you try and flex it too much, but you can see it's springy and soft. Generally this means that the softness of the weapon will take a lot of the force out of the blow. You will still need to pull the blow. So these are latex covered. It's core followed by a foam which is shaped over the top of the core and glued. This then gets latexed and painted into its colour. The third construction type, which you shouldn't go for, are buffers, which tend to be used in American LARPs more prominently. Effectively, they get a similar thing, a core, wrap it in foam, and then wrap the foam in duct tape. Don't bring a buffer. It's plausible to make a decent, safe, and all the rest of it buffer that is a usable weapon, but by the time you've managed that, you've perfected 90% of the skills required to just make yourself a latex weapon. And buffers at most places, including in the UK at least, won't be allowed.
Yeah, buffers are an American invention where you basically get a big chunk of foam and you wrap it in duct tape. Please do not arrive with this weapon. I will say no, and I won't help with you much because I've made it very, very clear. No. These, of course, are extremely, extremely cheap, obviously, because they're just foam and duct tape. It's no good, I'm afraid, not for our LARP. There might be one or two, but don't invest yourself into buffer things. It's just not worth it.
In answer to the question, I don't have an injection molded weapon to hand because I tend not to buy them because I don't like them. But to soften a lot of the injection molded weapons, what you would do is you would take the blade in a similar way to that I just did, and you would generally put your hand on and you'd sort of squeeze. Don't twist while you're doing it, just squeeze, flat pressure, like sort of like that. And if you squeeze and press on it enough times, you know, as long as you're careful with it, you won't cause too much adhesion on the surface. You won't rough it up too much. As long as you're pressing, taking your hands off, moving them, pressing, taking your hands off, moving, and it'll help start softening it up. It just needs to be compressed, uncompressed, a fair amount before it'll start to soften.
But if you've bought an injection molded weapon and it is too hard, it will take months of doing that. It won't.
You're not going to get it done in a single evening.
It won't be done in a single evening, maybe not even a week. Its use will soften it, which I understand is kind of a pain in the butt. As then we've gone basically over that. But the main thing I always recommend, I know you guys, a lot of you can't do it because you're not going to, if you are going to event before us, great. If you're not, I understand because all the conventions are finished, but after this LARP, if you enjoy what you do, please go to the conventions because that is literally where all of the big sellers in LARP go.
It's worth noting when you say conventions, I know some of you are more familiar with the cosplay community, so that might get confusing, but there are specific LARP conventions which go on. For example, What's Your Game, LARPCon. Those are the only two I actually know and have gone to. Are there any others that you know of?
No.
Those are the two big ones in the UK, and there's a lot of traders there who deal in everything from costume pieces, but the main thing that is there is the traders go there, and it's one of the best places to pick weapons up, with the exception of going to Fest LARPs, where a lot of Fest LARPs have traders in field who do a similar thing that you get at the cons. Is that everything for you at this bit?
When you go to these traders at the conventions and things, and I'm sure you know you know that a convention is just a large group of people that get together for a specific thing, so you're not daft. When you go, it's important that you go and try some of these weapons out yourself. So when you're going to buy them, I know, because I'm going to sing his praises throughout all of this, and he's probably going to tell me off. Mike Light from Light Armories, he's just pick it up. Obviously, please be respectful of their merchandise. If you're not going to buy it, don't rack it. Oh, they'll make you buy it. And you know, like, some weapons are lighter than others. People, even makers who use the same techniques, have different methods. So some will be heavier, some will be thicker. We personally like Light Armories because it is very weighted. We like the weight in them. Whereas there are some places, I think like Medlock and things that are very light weapons. Like you barely feel you're holding it, and that's how they make it. And it's just preference. Some people prefer the light weapons. Some people prefer heavier weapons. So you've really got to go there and look for yourself. At the end of the day, your first weapon may not be your favourite, but that's okay. It's just for practice and for a bit of fun. My first weapon I bought offline. And do you want to pass my baby? I literally sent him a picture. I had no idea. Sent this commissioner a picture of what blade I wanted and what handle I wanted, and asked him to shove it together and put a little wolf on it, and I love it. And this thing has lasted ages. It's dying now. The tip's coming off.
It needs a little bit of work. It may be worth noting that what can happen, this is more of a long-term issue. You'll notice that this sword, at least, potentially if I can get it on camera, the latex is starting to peel at the top. I'm going to wait for stream delay to see if I can get this on. Yeah, so you can see the tip is starting to come apart a little bit. You can actually see a little bit of the foam poking through at the top there, where the latex is completely peeled away. This isn't broken and irreparable. It actually just requires a little bit of effort to repair it. Mostly this basically is going to require a complete stripping of the latex from the entire weapon, and then a complete re-latexing of the entire weapon, which is a bit of a nuisance to do. But weapons, as much as you can use them for a couple of years, wait until things like the tips start to go. As long as you maintain them and you look after them, most of the time there's a method to continue using them until the end of days.
So yeah, don't be worried about being like, I've never used one and I don't know how I like it to feel. Just trust in what you're buying. If you buy it and you really, really, really hate it, as long as you haven't used it, I'm sure you can have a discussion with them and be like, what don't you like about it? Is it too light? Is it too heavy? Etc., etc. So like, have a think about it before you get upset if it comes and you're like, it's not what I thought. That'll happen.
Yeah.
That's normal.
It's one of the advantage to buying at the cons and in the field is you get to sit, you get to chat with the trader, you get to tell them what you're after. They can then make a suggestion based on what you tell them. They'll hand you a weapon, you can try it out for a few minutes, swing it, see how it feels, and then you can say what feels good and what feels bad about it, and they might go, oh, if that's how you're feeling about this, I know this weapon has the qualities that you said you liked about it while not having the issues that you had with it.
Alright, so let's move on to the fun stuff. Let's move on to single sword and what you should and shouldn't do.
Single sword. Was it single sword first?
Yes.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was dagger.
Thank you. And get the rapier as well. So these are our lovely examples today. This is a falchion, one of my longer ones.
I believe that one is a 36-37 inch.
I believe so. Yeah, so this is a stylized one. This is a light armories one. So it's nice and weighted in the handle, nice and thin handle, nice and strong. And so we've also got a rapier today. Also a light armories, so like I said, I'm not even...
Well, no.
I'm a little obsessed. Again, very thin handle, but the blade, as you can notice, is a hell of a lot thinner than what the falchion was.
Right.
These ones are built for... Go on.
So, I was going to mention, with these ones, the ones that we buy, they tend to be weighted around sort of here. As I mentioned, this is a personal preference. It's got a fair amount of heft in the handles, which gives you a lot of control over it. These are sort of our preference for weaponry, compared to if you buy a lighter weapon, the balance point will tend to be sort of close towards here because there's no weight in this end or in this end, so it just kind of defaults the balance towards the middle. It means that they hold differently.
But again, that's personal preference, so we can't really give you any intuitive into that. So the first thing about single sword is obviously you pick your dominant hand, unless you're taking ambi for any reason, like ambi disastrous, like the man next to me. I'm right-handed. A lot of the people will be right-handed. If you are left-handed, that's fine. It doesn't really affect you, but it can affect you in one-on-one fights, and it can be quite funny and annoying for people. It's great.
If you are ambidextrous, this is like if you're naturally ambidextrous, like you as a person, not your character.
Yeah.
My suggestions are either, if you don't want to think about it, just pick up the ambidextrous skill, which is what I quite often do because I get confused which hand I'm supposed to be using at any given time. Or if you can manage and you're better at it than I am, pick a hand to be your character's dominant hand, because obviously this is a locational system. If you're normally using your sword in your right hand, if an opponent takes out your right arm and you don't have the ambidextrous skill, while you as a player might be equally effective or ineffective, depending on how well you fight with your left hand, it's not always completely fair from a roleplay. Your character doesn't have this, so just because you've lost one arm doesn't naturally mean you should immediately be using the other.
So some of the basic fighting rules, just I'm not going to go into like horrifically in depth so I don't bore you half to death, is no stabbing. Yes, I know what some swords are for, I understand, but no, never ever, no excuse, no stabbing. You also no undercuts, so you can attack like, sorry I have to be gentle here, forwards, but if I start bringing it upwards, no, none of that, because that's just asking for a chin or a nose or a face. It's just asking for pain.
The main reason to avoid the undercuts is that as you're bringing it up, if you know how to do it completely safely, they're not awful, but it's not... If someone who doesn't know how to do it safely sees you and tries to do it themselves, they could injure someone, because the main problem is, if I'm bringing this up in a safe fashion, it'll be fine, but if I'm bringing it and slashing with it, I end up pointing the point towards them, which if they're moving forwards as I go for my slash, so even if I miss them and I move the point, I've got the point now pointed at them. If I was to, if they move forwards towards me, expecting my slash to keep going, they come in too early, they could stab themselves on my weapon. Which, while not your fault, it's something we'd rather, it's better prevented. Injuries are more likely to occur if you start doing things like undercuts.
Okay, so no undercuts, no grabbing. So if someone's got their sword out, you go, ha! No, none of this, none of this. It's a sharp weapon, no. And also no grabbing each other's hilts, because that's just a mess waiting to happen. There is no grappling in our system. You cannot touch someone else without consent, and 2, just grabbing people is a no-go, please. I'm hoping you're sensible human beings. Please don't grab someone. Unless it's part of the fun, I get it, but please, just no non-consensual touching.
In regards to that, there is... I've forgotten the term for it. Affirmative consent, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Which, for example, if you and your friend decide, right, we want to have a faked punch-up in, the woods, you can both agree to it. You should both decide ahead of time who's going to win the fight, effectively. And once you've done that, you can effectively stage fight it out as carefully, as safely as you can. But that is entirely between the two of you. You shouldn't be even if both of you agree that you can punch each other in the face, don't, because that's not. If one of you breaks the other's nose on accident,
we're not covered.
Yeah, our insurance won't cover you if you decide to punch each other in the face, because that's not part of the game. We will probably have to have words with you, and you may have to be removed from the event if you are having actual punch-ups.
Yeah, you can pretend fight, and the one thing that I'm encouraging in this game as best I can, it's called hero fighting. Now, if you have watched any fights on the internet, or you have had some fights yourself, whichever it is, you'll know that it's you hit them, they fall down. Yes, that is true. And yes, you can do that by reaching really far and tapping them on the shoulder. Yes, you can do that. However, we're trying not to encourage you guys to do that. What we're hoping is some really big, heroic fighting. So the claw comes in and the big shield comes up, and then he swings around, and it's all a lot slower. It's all a lot bigger. It's all a lot more exciting. Although it's a bit slower, it actually is more exciting. I found it no end of fun just to do a thing, as we all call it, the rule of cool. If somebody catches you off guard, say like they catch your leg, but they did it in a really dramatic way, fall into that leg, scramble back up, have a lot of fun with it. We're not trying to win. That's the important part here. Sure, you might have goals you're trying to do, but when you go into this game, don't think about winning. Think about how cool can I make this look? Who's going to see me? It's
not just a matter of balancing your stats. It's not just going, well, I can take 3 hits on my arm before it goes off. So therefore, I can take 2 hits without caring about it. You should role play your blows. You're not going to get any in-game points for cool role play for it. But you definitely get a lot of other other players will notice if you're role playing well, more people are going to want to come and talk to you if they can see that, you know, you're getting these big fights and, you know, you're taking these huge blows and staggering, you know, you're catching the big warhammer on your shield and staggering back under the blow. Because at the end of the day, it's a role-playing game. Like, if you're not role-playing, then
you're missing part of it.
you're missing quite a big part. It's not just a matter of, here I have these stats, I need to go murder 1,000 sheep. And once I've murdered 1,000 sheep, my job is done.
When you're swinging, we do a thing called Walker's Crisps, don't we, Sui?
It's an interesting...
That's crisps, it's not Walker's Crisps.
No, I know, but it's easy. We haven't gone through all the weapon types yet, so I'm going to very quickly talk through... anyway, yeah, but this requires us to go through the weapons.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, as I was saying, so the Walker's Crisps method, it's not exclusive to LARP. I believe it started as a stage fighting concept. It's been a while since I've learned it. I was taught it as part of my monster crewing at Big Systems, which, if you're just getting started and you're new to combat, it's a very good way of timing your blows to make your blows look heroic. So the idea is that for, I'm going to grab the sword rather than the dagger. So for a single-handed sword, you should be able to say Walker's Crisps between blows. Just in your head, don't say it out loud, people are going to look at you very funnily. But if you go Walker's Crisps, Walker's Crisps, Walker's Crisps in your head, it takes a while to sort of get through. It might be something you want to try before you get to the event, so you don't have to do it while you're in game. Eventually it becomes more of a muscle memory, but it gives you these big, heroically timed blows, because you're not just going tap, 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 which isn't fun, and generally, just because you've tapped someone 3 times really quickly, a lot of systems have rules against machine gun hitting.
This is not cool.
It does go down in size. So, for example, if you're dealing with a small weapon such as a dagger, instead of Walker's Crisps, they go crisps, crisps, crisp. You know, you shorten it from Walker's Crisps down to crisps because it's a smaller weapon, it's faster. For larger weapons, for example, we'll go over them in a few minutes, polearms, like the spear, which I'm going to do my best to very quickly have a flyby in the camera. These are generally, the rule for those is you say salt and vinegar crisps, because it gives you that big blow that looks big and impressive, and if you don't look big and impressive, then there's, you know, you're doing something wrong. You should always try and look big and impressive. It's more fun than being good at the game.
So many things are important to remember for weapons. If you're resting them somewhere, please don't rest them upside down. So give me a sword, please, because you keep taking it off me. That's the sword. Thank you. Never rest it like that on the floor. No, 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 no. Very simple, that way. I'm not going to go too in depth into that. This is what it is. You rest it on the floor like this. Yes, I know you're holding the blade, but if you want your sword to last longer than an event, please pop it down that way around. That's it.
It's particularly pertinent for rapiers because it's a lot easier, due to the shape and design of rapiers, it's a lot easier to strip the tips off of rapiers, like take the thing off completely, and putting it edge down in the ground will damage the tip. That goes for all weapons, but rapiers especially are known for tip damage.
And then
when
the
not
hot
treated
and cold
right.
thing. Please don't put them anywhere near fires, don't put them in any heat sources. They will melt. They are latex and foam. They will definitely melt. They can handle quite a lot of heat, but not... Yeah, don't put it near the fire.
Yeah,
it can be nearby, but not right next to it. That's a bad idea.
Our event, it hopefully shouldn't come up, but if it's burning sunshine, you know, we're talking like proper British, the 1 week of summer that we get a year.
So this week.
You know, this week at the moment, depending on where you live, if you leave the weapon out in the sun, sometimes it's okay, but you'll tend to want to find a shaded area to keep it in, or in your tent, or because leaving it out in direct sunlight can have the similar effect of putting it next to a fire. It will weaken and it will flex and melt and have problems. Yeah,
that's it. Right, and if it gets cold, this one is going to be far more important. If it's cold and you've got your weapon here and someone hits you, right? and you're 100% sure that was a pulled blow, but it still hurt. It's usually not because they're hitting too hard, usually. When weapons like these get very cold, even above freezing conditions, they're just very cold, they go solid. So it is not weird for you to be standing there and feel it up a little bit. Yes, I know how wrong it is, but just give it a good old squeeze. It's not a hard squeeze. I'm not trying to bend it or wreck it. I'm literally just patting it up and down.
Similar to the softening method we talked about for the injection molded
And
weapons.
I'm basically trying to use my body heat to heat it up. Please don't put a flame near it or something silly to warm it up. It will just melt it. That won't help. This might, if it gets really cold, you might have to do that quite consistently if you have a weapon. That's daggers, polearms, swords, doesn't matter, they all do it. So just be aware of that when you're fighting, because that can be a way you can accidentally be hurting someone. It is an accident, it is not your fault, but please try and stop it.
If necessary, you can try and just pull your blows even more, because there is a certain point where you're pulling your blows to the point where you're not hitting the person anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But quite often that's preferable. You know, you'll almost hit them most. You know, you'll still get hits in, but you'll be hitting them gently enough that even though it's gone solid, it's not too bad. At Huntley for our event, it hopefully shouldn't be too bad because the cabins are heated. So if you go spend a few minutes indoors, it should soften up. Especially if you spend the few minutes that you're indoors going over your weapons, squeezing it a little bit, it should warm up fairly quickly, and then you get back out into the fight without worrying too much.
We've said before, we haven't actually said, have we? As far as fizz reps go, there will be in-game stealing of fizz reps, right? Of in-game items. People's weapons are not in-game items for stealing. You cannot steal someone's weapon. I'm not putting in any mechanics for that because we don't have shiny things on our weapons. There's nothing on the weapons you can steal. We do not want people's weapons to go walkabouts.
Generally speaking, stealable items are going to be items that you'll know what they are from the fact that they're a form of resource. They're also going to, most of them have a little tag on because most of them will have an in-game effect and therefore will have a little tag on to explain it. We will be going over this probably in more detail either during character generation things or during the pre-game brief we'll most likely go over, because the last thing we want is people feeling sour that someone took something they weren't expecting to take and then you're not being sure where something is.
Yeah, we want you. If you don't want your weapon, say for any reason someone knocks you down and wants to get your weapon away from you. Maybe you've gone mad. Maybe you're just trying to kill someone. That's fine. They're trying to get it away from you. They can do. However, if you are dead set against your weapon leaving your side, you need to understand that rule of cool applies. And they're like, okay. But you can't then just be like, well, I had my weapon on me, so I attacked everyone. Well, yeah, but you asked them not to take it away from you. We don't want people to steal your weapons, no, because if they take it and go, I'm putting it on this table right here, and you can see it, that shouldn't be a problem. If you have a problem with it, that is your business, you know, like, that is up to you. But my point is that it may come up that your weapon will be moved away from you, but I'm not encouraging anybody to take a weapon that people aren't aware of them taking. No, none of that, please. Yeah. It's not cool.
If you see if you are taking someone's weapon, like you're moving it away from them, generally, if it's another player, tell them where you're putting it. Check with them. They'll most likely be unconscious at the time, unconscious in game at the time. Tell them where you're moving it to. Put it there. And if you do see an unsupervised weapon that you're not sure if anyone knows where it is, or you think that someone might be looking for it, don't move it. Talk to a ref, because the player might go, okay, I've left it there because I disarmed someone earlier, and this is where I've told them it will be.
Yeah.
And so, unless if you're really uncertain, talk to a ref, and we'll keep an eye on it. And if anyone comes looking for it, we all know where it is. There was another point to make there that I've completely lost.
That's fine. You can come back to it if you need to. Right. So with that cleared up, daggers.
Monsters. That was.
What? Monsters?
If you want to disarm a monster, unlike with the player, it won't be a matter of taking their weapon away and then returning it, telling them where it is. For example, if they've sent in an NPC, sometimes that will be okay and they'll go with the yes, that's fine. But generally, when the monster leaves, they'll go and pick it up again because it's their receipt. And most of the time, if it's a fighting encounter where you're dropping the monster, you can't defeat the monsters by taking all of their weapons away so that they don't have any weapons to come and hit you with. Because as a ref, we would, for one, question why our monsters let you take all of the weapons away, and secondly, we'll come into camp and go retrieve all of the monsters' weapons, because it's no fun. As much as it's a way to stop us sending monsters at you, it's not very fun if you're sat in the camp all weekend going, well, we defeated the monsters by virtue of the refs running out of weapons.
Please don't take our monsters' weapons, thank you. Right, daggers.
Daggers.
Thank you very much. I love this dagger. I've got a pair of... Give me the other one. I want to show off my pair of babies. And these are my sweethearts. I got a dual dagger. This is a classic example of ambi dags. Love me some ambi dags. Right, so daggers have basically all the same rules of a sword, okay? They're just obviously shorter. And the sake of the crisps. Very simple, very straightforward. Thing is with daggers, you can get even smaller ones than these. I mean, I'm talking boot knives. You can get the tiny ones.
These are some of the largest daggers that you can get that still count as daggers.
They're technically like little swords, but they are daggers.
They're in some systems, those are probably slightly too big to even count as daggers, but for most systems, those are daggers.
Yeah, so the thing is with daggers is you can get the small boot knives, and I love them. And you can hide those in your sleeves and in your boot and in your right pocket, and they're great for that. Obviously be careful because some of them are cold, so you don't want to like snap them in half. But saying I've done sleeve daggers a lot. Sleeve daggers is fun. There is a call in our system called backstab that we will have, which is the main thing that rogues get, rogues only. And just a quick rundown of that is just if they can sneak up on you, strike you in the back and say backstab, then you fall down and it hurts. So we will write that out in full and that will be fully explained, but I'm not going to fully explain it.
It's in the rules. The rules are currently... for the most part, they're just in editing at the moment. There are 1 or 2 sections left to do. But for the most part, they're in editing and final drafts at the moment. The character generation system is mostly fleshed out and is almost ready for public consumption, but that will most likely come out at the same time as the rest of the rules.
Daggers are free for everyone.
Yes.
So every single class can take can bring daggers with them. For no XP, you can just bring one. Because everyone can use a knife. It doesn't mean they can use it well. But everyone can use a knife. So that's all there is for daggers. Next is the fun things, the two-handers, my pretty babies behind me. And then I got my stickers out. I'm just gonna, there it is. Put it between my legs.
Once again, as you can see, these are very long.
Not very, these are only 5 footers, you can get longer. Important note about mage staffs. What we're doing is you can bring, for example, like this kind of stick, you can bring this is a mage staff. This does not do anything, this is not a weapon. Okay, this is where you get your magic from, you can use it as roleplay. It cannot be used as a weapon. We will be aware of who has the two-handed skill. If you are a mage with the two-handed skill, and you have magic, good for you, you used all your points. But you can then use this, and this is LARP. This is fully LARP safe, it's all latex foam, it's exactly like swords, just longer. Pretty much exactly the same make, just longer. My ones, so you can get, they're between 42 inches and 72 inches. So I think these one is 60 inches, so I'm like right in the middle with the 5 footers. They're just cool because they're basically the same size as me, so they're very comfortable for me because they're exactly my size. But for some people, they're very short. If you bring a mage stick that is not LARP safe, it is a literal stick, for example, We are going to be marking it as not LARP safe. There'll be a small marking on it or rubber band. We will work that out a little bit later. I'm not 100% on that. But we will be able to know that it is not LARP safe. I'm sure you'll figure it out. But you can bring a large stick or not. You don't have to bring a mage staff. I'm just saying that you can get a little fancy with it and play with it a bit.
If you do that, we will most likely brief you on it. It will be similar in briefing to bows, where you'll be expected that if someone's running you in melee combat, you make sure that the stick is nowhere near the fight. So if they're hitting you, you're going to have to make sure that if it's not a LARP safe stick, you keep it as far away from their weapons as possible. Generally by running away. Running away is a very good plan if you have no weapons.
Important note is, again, I know I've said it before, no stabbing, and pass it a second. The reason why I'm reiterating this is because there are spears and weapons on the market that look exactly like this, that are called collapsible tip, stab safe, or stab suitable, as they're now apparently known as. This is basically from about here-ish. They will make it completely coreless, and basically the tip will fold in on itself. They consider this meaning that it's safe to stab people with it. We do not accept these weapons.
So the sort of older way that a lot of LARPs referred to it was stab safe. As time has gone on, this is a lot of places have started to refer to them as stab suitable, because a lot of things have shown that it's still not safe to use in a lot of systems.
No.
We won't be allowing stabbing with any form of weapons, even if it is stab suitable. If it is a stab suitable weapon, you may still be able to use it as a weapon, but you're going to have a rough time if you're trying to parry with your weapon and the tip keeps folding over whenever someone hits it. So it's not a good idea to use them like that, but we're not going to outright ban them. Just if we see you stabbing at someone with any form of weapon, we're going to have words with you, even if it is a collapsible tip.
Yeah, and the so that's the only reason I reiterated the no stabbing rule, because there may be places that say no, it's safe, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but no, we don't accept it.
I believe the phrase is stab safe isn't, which is just, it's not actually safe to do, it's just, it gives you an option where used in the correct circumstances.
We actually have two variants of two-handed. We don't have a sword. We don't have a two-handed sword because they're massive. And that's not really my style. I am going to move back a little bit because I just want to show the difference. So this is my stick. Now the difference is between my stick and the spear is I will use my stick, oops, sorry, this is where I embarrass myself, like this. So I'll have my hand on top of here, my hand here, and I'm basically going for kicking in the feet. So I'll swing back and forth like this, like a silly person. That's feet hitting, for this, what the spear is known for. You can hit higher, but that's how you use this one, whereas we have this spear, which is all about being up high, going in and bapping them. Like you can go a bit further along, all that kind of thing. So those are two variants that I know of spear, or two-handed weapon, because technically one's a stick, not a spear, but one's a spear. There's like tridents, there's all sorts of different kinds.
As you expect, this has a long enough handle to show it, even though it isn't a two-handed sword.
It's a hand and a half.
A two-handed sword generally, once again, is held like this, which you tend to go for the big swings. Yeah. As I'm sure. Yeah. There we go. I've definitely caught it on the stream camera. Yeah. Yeah,
so that I was just explaining that you don't have to be the spearman. It's not about stabbing them. The feet one has done us very well in the past, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So next I will allow Tom to take over properly because he knows all about bows, don't you? You love bows.
Sometimes.
I don't know anything about bows because I don't like them, but that doesn't mean they're not good. I am just not a personal fan, and I've used one once, and I hated it.
Right. So bows. So as
And I promise
someone who's keen-eyed might have spotted, here is one I made earlier.
This is going to make it a lot easier.
Bows, for the most part, I am holding this upside down. Well, I put it down upside down.
Good start.
As you can see, it's fairly standard. This is a bevo. You can get recurves, which are also LARP safe. The general poundage limit is £30 for LARP. It varies. Different LARPs, it will vary between 27 inch and £30 at a draw length of 28 inches, which is what the limbs tend to be measured against. Because if you pull it further, there is obviously more poundage, which makes it more dangerous. I unfortunately don't have any arrows in the house at the moment to actually show you
I don't use bows. I'm very sorry.
There's no arrows here at the moment that I can show you. Do we not have bolts?
No, I needed to get some for next
right.
time.
But yeah, for the most part, the arrows are of a standard arrow construction from the knock. You still have the flights, and then obviously the shaft. The difference is at the tip, normally you would have a field point, which for anyone wearing archery, shooting a field point arrow at someone is not a good thing, because it's just a point to hit someone. So generally, rather than that, I'm going to move these, because they instead end in sort of a cone, which it tends to be either plastic or rubber, and then out the front of it you'll end up with a good couple inches of foam, like sort of sponge, foam or sponge.
It'll be sponge.
Generally it's quite a soft, it's a soft material, which ends in a flat head. There are other designs which are the flat one. So basically the idea then is it hits you, the sponge compresses as it hits, and then doesn't, you don't get impaled by the shaft because the sponge has taken all the force out of the blow. They've generally got a specific construction. If you know what you're doing, then you don't need me telling you about this. If you don't know what you're doing, don't try and make them yourself, just buy them. Archery is a very expensive thing to do in LARP, because the way to look at it is every time you fire an arrow, you're shooting somewhere between £5 and £10 of your wallet, and you may or may not ever get that back.
Yeah, arrows are very breakable as well. It can catch in the wind, they can get caught in bushes, rivers, lakes.
They could disappear and never be seen again because
snapped in half. I'm not knocking it. I do like some archers are amazing. Like there are some amazing archers in LARP. But the important thing about arrows is to make sure, like you said, the flat ends, not the teardrop, because there will be two kinds that will appear in your inventory when you try and look for these. Teardrops are banned because they are dangerous.
The teardrops she's referring to are the golf ball head arrows.
Yeah.
Which there are is, generally speaking, if it isn't a flat end, as I say, if you know more than I'm currently going to go into, because this is a very basic stream, then feel free to go and get the other kind of arrow that isn't banned. You'll know which kind they are. I'm not going to go into them because it's too easy to get them mixed with golf ball head arrows. Golf ball head arrows tend to be similar construction. If you go to, I believe, the Lorien Trust website, which is the Fest LARP, they've got a good guidance on weapons and what counts as what kinds of weapons. That will cover. So that'll give you a nice diagram of what the arrows should look like. But I say flat end. Golf ball head arrows are rounded on the end. That is a very bad thing to do. Golf ball head arrows tend to be similar construction. They come in, but they end in a curved tip, which tend to be covered in latex. They have been banned in most systems because they've been known to cause cracked eye sockets, popped eyes. They're just generally banned in systems at this point. The flat head arrows, generally the flat heads are wider than the size of someone's eye, which means that even if they hit you in the face, they'll tend, you might get a bit of bruising around this area, but it won't hit the actual eye. The danger with golf ball head arrows was they were small enough that they could hit you in the eye.
Yes, so
which was
please
very
only
dangerous.
get flat ones. That was the moral of the story.
Yes.
Right, please
Right.
go.
As I said, the other thing is crossbows. These are, we are currently using the system where, so bows up to £30 are allowed. Crossbows, we'll only be allowing the fixed limbs like this. As I pull back the string, the limbs do not flex. The power all comes from this bungee cord. You can pick these up from a very small number of lots, whereas a lot of places don't do them anymore. Like I say anymore, a lot of places have never done them. They're a difficult thing to get your hands on. In this case, these ones, you pull them back and then they're loaded, and then you would just pull the trigger and let them go. For those who have some archery knowledge but haven't done these or who want to pick one up, similar to bows, you shouldn't dry fire them because the cord can release a lot of tension into these limbs, and as they're fixed limbs, the whole thing can explode in your hands. But as long as there is a bolt in there, that's fairly safe because it's fixed limb. You can get curved limb crossbows that are under £30. Most systems, including ours, aren't going to let you use them because we don't have an easy way of we can knock up things that test bow weights fairly simply. Doing the same for crossbows is a lot more difficult.
I mean, a massive, and the main point difference between bows and crossbows, bows are way more accurate. Crossbows, you'll be lucky.
Yeah, bows, if you know what you're doing, are way more accurate. Crossbows, anyone and their brother can fire it.
It's just cool.
But it's not as effective a long-range weapon.
Okay.
Yes, and once you've put a LARP arrowhead on them anyway, the arrows will fishtail all over the place.
The important thing about bows and crossbows is they will never be used as a melee weapon. You cannot parry with them, and I wouldn't recommend parrying with them because you might break them, and they're more expensive sometimes. So again, arrows cannot be used to parry. You can't throw your arrows at people. Please don't. That's dangerous. And the basic rule, and if you're not sure what to do, someone's charging you, they've just like meleeed you like bad, like they're just coming at you, just turn around and protect your bow. Yeah.
If you do bow
you
comp,
don't want it to.
We'll be going over what you must, the must and must not. No, that's for the most part. There's a few more intricacies in there, but if that doesn't sound like something, if you wouldn't be comfortable with someone charging at you and your bow, then you probably shouldn't be bringing your bow to the field.
Yeah, you gotta always assume the worst, I'm afraid, just to be safe to yourself.
Yeah.
And the final thing is just things that are wands, because obviously mages can use wands in Dragon Age. You can buy LARP safe wands, but these will not do damage. They just look cool.
Well, if you get a fully LARP safe wand that's less than 20 inches, and as we say, everyone can use daggers, you'll effectively deal damage as if it was a dagger. Because it's
we might need to discuss that one further.
But yes, you can get LARP safe wands. You can get prop wands, but similar to staffs. If you're in combat, get it out of the way. Put it in.
Please don't poke it in
If you've got a
people's
holster or
eyes,
something, put it away.
or smack them with it.
You're not required to have a wand
Nope.
as a mage. It's an optional thing, but if you want it for style points,
Yeah.
style points are always valuable.
As far as weapons go, that's everything. I know we have one question there, so we'll just quickly answer that.
Mages, right. So mages, currently there are two forms of mage casting. As I say, these rules are written, they're just currently going through editing and power balance. Effectively what will happen is your mage will be standing there lovely and proud in their fancy robe with their shiny stick. If you're a circle mage, you will have a set incantation that you will read out. You'll do your nice big booming, I am a mage and please look at me and I am incredibly powerful.
Or something.
You will then, describe / point at your target so there is no doubt who is getting hit by the spell. And then there is a fixed line which tells them the exact effect of what the spell will be. So, for example, the best example I can give you right now would be the spell for which the line would be, by the powers of the earth, be stricken to the ground. At which point, the person getting yelled at, who, you look like a mage, you sound like a mage, you're wiggling your fingers and yelling at them, and you've told them to be stricken to the ground. They should, as you've said, be stricken to the ground and take the spell.
It will
and
be
fall
more
over.
English than that, but yeah.
Yes, this is the
You will
difficulty.
be struck down.
There's a reason all of the rules that I've written have to go through a lot of editing, which is... I can over-explain a few things, but mages will effectively yell their spells. They will have a fixed amount of mana per day. This can be topped up with lyrium potions. They can spend it on spells or rituals. There's a lot of detail in the rules, so I'm not going to completely cover it here because I'm sure we can have time to go over that in a rules section.
It is a point-and-click system, so you point, you shout their name, you shout the wibbly words, and bam, they should fall over, freeze, go on fire, whatever you said. There is a set spell list, though. You can't just make it up as you go.
Sorry, that was for Circle Mages. Apostate Mages works exactly the same, pretty much. But rather than being given your fixed formula, which you must read out, you're given a time period for the spell, which is you're going to sit and chant your flavour of however you want your spells to be cast for example, 10 seconds. If your spell says it takes 10 seconds to cast, you need to chant at someone for 10 seconds, followed by the description of who they are, and you are definitely the person getting hit with this. And then obviously you will again have the similar line to the Circle Mages where you go, and you are stricken to the ground.
It's how you can tell the difference. It's going to be fun. But yeah, that's the basics of mages. Is there any more questions? And otherwise we will jet and let you guys enjoy your evening, as we have rattled on long enough, I feel.
And I'm running out of drink.
Or was that your issue?
I thought it's getting dry.
Well, you're not drinking water. There's water over there if your throat's getting dry.
But yeah, I think...
Bam, 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 bam,
Oh,
bam.
yep.
Alright, you're welcome. But yeah, so I think we'll leave it at that. If there are any more questions, you know to email me. You've all heard enough from me by now.
Can we get the email address again briefly?
You can go on our website or our Facebook and find it, because I'm not saying it right now. You guys should know it by now. You've all gotten emails from me at one point or another, so it should be fine. So if you don't know it, it is on our Facebook and on our website, so that'll be fine. If you don't want to email me, go on our Facebook and literally just message us. One of us will respond. That is fine. Thank you guys for everything so far. You're all very excited, and I'm getting all excited, and we're really getting a roll on, so it's all very good. I've nearly got all the forms in. You guys are great.
We did miss the going over traders, or were we not doing that?
I'm going to put all the traders on our website that you can go have a look at. Like we said before, it's usually better to go up to stalls, because there are a lot of smaller ones that don't have websites, but that's just life, I'm afraid. You're going to have to
If you're restricted to buying online, you'll have to stick to the ones who have online store.
Do not buy off eBay, please. I beg you.
Yeah, you can buy beg, borrow, steal off of things like the LARP trading groups,
which I will pop on our website as well.
But as always, second-hand is second-hand, and there are always risks associated with it.
Yeah, sometimes it's better than eBay, though. The Facebook groups are better than eBay, I beg of you. Oh, okay, that's the only thing I beg you. Please don't use eBay. You will regret. I hope you regret. Alright, well, thank you for watching, and hope to see you guys soon. So,
alright, goodbye.
Bye!